Field of Dreams game. Did you catch the Field of Dreams game last week? I think it was one week ago.
I decided, much as I would do in any other time, two bottoms dwellers were playing in a baseball game. I just chose not to watch it.
Yeah, I didn't have the choice. I was traveling back from my vacation. I was actually on my way to Chicago, but unfortunately, that game was on Fox. And even though I have MLB TV, I cannot watch nationally televised games. Those are blacked out on the service I pay $130 a year for. So I couldn't even fucking watch the game, which is hilarious. It ended up being the highest viewed, best ratings at least for this season for any major league game. It was 3 million something. That happened to be half as many as last year's Field of Dreams game between your Chicago White Sox and the New York Yankees, which was very predictable. You and I predicted this the moment the Field of Dreams game in 2021 ended, that it was a mistake to try to do it in 2022 because it would be a shadow of that game. There's no way it could live up to what that game ended up being, because first of all, the novelty of last year, it had never been done before. They did
Right.
it. They did
And
it
delayed an entire year because of COVID.
exactly. Yeah, they did an extraordinarily good job, which I think they did again this year. But they had huge team. I mean, the Yankees are actually obviously going to draw more than anybody. They were a playoff contender. You had your Chicago White Sox, who were among the best teams in the American League at that point. There's two contending teams playing a pivotal game in an extraordinary setting. And that's why I'm bringing this into aesthetics, because this game is all about aesthetics. Playing in a cornfield, playing in a beloved baseball movie setting, having the throwback uniforms, all of that. That's all part of the fun of the Field of Dreams game. But you and I both agreed it just was not going to be the same in doing part two. And
Yeah, I mean, as Twitter said, like, we know why there wasn't a Field of Dreams Part Two film.
yeah, yeah,
It
exactly.
just
Yeah,
could
the
never live up to
sequel.
the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's no sequel because it could never live up to the first one, and it's really just a you're never going to know, right, when you do this in the preseason, how good those teams are going to be going into that game, right?
right.
And it should, and there's no way to. It's not like a game you can pivot, right? Like, you got to pick your teams and say these
Oh,
are your
that's done a
teams.
year in advance for
But
sure.
yeah, right. That's not. It's not a pivot game like you could do on a Sunday night baseball game or something like
No.
that. Change the time a week in advance or something. So, like, the idea that they may be moving away from it being like just at the Field of Dreams and moving it to different regions in the US at historic possible sites makes way more sense to me than throwing hope at the year in advance
Yeah.
that both of your that the matchup is going to be like, if you're going to do this, you got to consistently, and as much as I hate to say this, if you wanted to be successful, you got to consistently have like the Dodgers and Yankees and
Yeah.
those teams who are always at the tops of their divisions kind of involved in this.
I would argue it doesn't matter. It was already played out, that the novelty of the first game was so magical, and the way that game played out was ridiculous
Oh,
with your
you can't,
multiple walk-offs.
unless you scripted it, you couldn't match
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And so they were doomed to begin with. I don't think it mattered who was going to play. It was not going to have the same kind of ratings or the same kind of feel as the first time. The Cubs obviously playing the Reds, as you mentioned. I don't know how many people thought the Cubs were going to be as shitty as they have been this year. I think a lot of people could see the Reds being very shitty. Just an underwhelming matchup, but it didn't matter. It was doomed anyway. And they're not officially doing another Field of Dreams game next year, but that sounds like it's only because they're building. I think Frank Thomas owns that now.
He
Actually,
does own it. Yeah.
they're building some huge complex there now to have more of a permanent facility, and building other things like a youth academy. I'm not sure everything
Yeah.
else that's going on, but construction is stopping them from doing that, which it's a blessing in disguise, because I don't think they should do it. I think there's other creative things Major League Baseball can do. besides specifically the field, capitalizing the Field of Dreams. There's plenty of other ideas. I've heard uh, do the official Major League recreation game. Do the Guardians versus the Brewers and have Bob Uecker call the game. The best part of this idea I heard was put it on Apple TV where there are no FCC regulations and let Bob Uecker swear his face off as he would. I love that idea. There's been other talk about maybe having a game somehow in Brooklyn, kind of recreating the Brooklyn
Yes, that
Dodgers.
was one of the things that's one of the things I heard too.
I've seen reviving historic Negro League stadiums. I think
Yep.
I forget where this was at, but it sounds like there's a really nice stadium they could play a game at, honor the Negro Leagues, do something really cool like that in a smaller type venue that is, just doesn't typically get Major League fanfare around it. I think all those things sound cool. I've heard like the Sandlot idea. I don't know how that would play out, but there's tons of ideas out there. We don't have to run the Field of Dreams game into the ground. And I feel like this game kind of already did. It got decent ratings. Obviously, it was the highest rated game of the Major League season, but I think those numbers would continue to go down. The other part of aesthetics, obviously, is the uniforms. The Cubs wore like a 1920s throwback. I forget exactly where it was, but we've seen those before. That was not a unique thing. The Cubs actually went through a litany of, I think, all of their throwback uniforms back in 2014, the 100-year anniversary of Wrigley Field. They basically wore a different throwback uniform every home series that year.
Yeah.
So they've kind of gone through all those. The biggest story out of the Field of Dreams game, though, of course, was the creepy hologram of Harry Carey singing the seventh inning stretch. I don't know if you saw that online.
I did. I did see it. Yes.
The weirdest thing about that is they kept calling it a hologram, but it was not a hologram. People at the game could not look up in the booth and see a hologram Harry Carey singing. It was just CGI for television.
Oh,
So
they didn't do that expensive. There's that expensive technology where the people see the stuff at the game now. They did not do that.
they did not do that, which is hilarious. They kept calling it a hologram, and it just simply wasn't. It was all for television. They could see it on the scoreboard, the video scoreboard. You could see him if you were at the game.
That's hilarious. I didn't.
When
hear
I
that
saw it, I thought it was a person. I thought it was an actor. I thought it was somebody dressed up, poorly dressed up as Harry Carey. That was the other thing. It didn't really look like Harry Carey to me. Or maybe he gained like 50 pounds in heaven or hell, wherever he happens to be. Or
It came out of the corn, dude.
if either of those exist, but he looked a little portly. It didn't really look that much like him. That's why I thought immediately, oh, this is just like some actor. It was like Ryan Dempster dressed up as him and doing his shitty impression.
Hey, everybody! Hold on, let's go.
That's pretty good. That sounds just like Dempster trying to do that. But so I mean, that was the funny, weird story about it. People were kind of creeped out by it. Some people liked it. I don't know. You're going to be negative about it?
I'm not gonna be. I love Harry Carey. I told you that earlier in when we were talking about.
Is it weird? Are they kind of exhuming
broadcasting duos and how Harry and Steve have a special place in my heart?
That's true. Yeah.
And Harry, was with the White Sox in my youth. That's who I grew up listening to. So
don't you find it kind of creepy to like essentially exhume the corpse and reanimate the corpse of Harry Carey in front of a national audience? I kind of get it though,
because if you're talking about Field of Dreams, it's about ghosts playing baseball, man.
It's
so
true. Yeah, ghosts.
Like it fits. It fits with that game. It would be creepy if every game we went to at Wrigley Field there was a CGI Harry Carey that was real or not CGI, that there was a hologram Harry Carey.
They leave like an an empty space in the booth. Oh, here comes Harry. Yeah. I mean, maybe
fans at Wrigley Field this week were surprised when they thought Harry Carey appeared back from the dead and left the field screaming, as they were not aware of the new hologram the Ricketts family spent $2 billion on.
I like your connection with ghosts in the movie and all that. That does make a little more sense in context. Like I said, I missed the broadcast, so maybe they made that connection.
Yeah, I didn't watch the broadcast.
A little more clear.
I just immediately thought like Cubs, historic, legendary. The entire anyone who's a baseball fan knows about the seventh inning stretch and Harry Carey. So like, it's Ghosts and Corn, it's Field of Dreams. It just all made sense to me. So, like, I didn't watch the game again. If the Cubs were like kicking butt, and if that was like a divisional race, I totally would have tuned in. Like,
Sure.
for sure. Like, because to me that would be better than the All-Star game, but which
Yeah.
I barely watch that either. But it just the matchup just wasn't there. So when you do games like this, I mean, it's hard, but you gotta, I mean, I didn't think the Cubs are going to be as bad as they are, but like you said, I knew that. I think we all kind of knew, like, whoa, you guys went with the Reds, you didn't go with the Cubs Cardinals. I mean, even as bad as the Cubs were, if you went Cubs Cardinals, that there's like just such a rivalry there. It
Well,
makes sense.
they will be doing Cubs Cardinals in
In
London
I
next
know
year.
London's calling, buddy.
You talk like you're from London. Yeah, they will be back in London. I forget who played there a couple years ago. I'm sure it was the Yankees and somebody else, but there have been games at I believe it was Wembley Stadium. Maybe it was someplace else. But so this will be at least the second time Major League Baseball will be in London. So that's kind of cool. I'll
Yeah.
definitely check that out. Hopefully the Cubs will be better and more watchable.
One thing, back to the aesthetics thing for a second, because I love aesthetics.
Yeah, you do.
Do you find it annoying? I found it annoying that, and I know it was just like the general C at that time, but then you find it kind of annoying that how much the jersey itself they looked alike. Like the Cubs C and the Cincinnati C were the same exact C.
That is an
Like
awesome question. Yeah, it's almost the same as the Chicago Bears C on their helmet.
And the C the Sox had at the same time. It was like the C that was like Major League Baseball said, this is the C you have to use on your uniforms. Yeah. But if you're doing a game like this, like,
change it up.
Like the Cubs hat, one of my favorite logos of all time.
Yeah, the bear with the bear with the bat. Yeah,
awesome. But like the jersey, and then seeing the Cincinnati jersey, I'm just like, guys,
the same fucking logo.
You got enough history. You guys
could. That elongated C with a little flare on the back. Yeah. That also is the exact shape of like an industrial toilet seat.
I did not know that.
Well, I've seen that comparison many times with the Bears logo. You may have seen that on social.
Well, I may have
posted that on.
I'm probably
on Limp Ditka's, our football Twitter feed. Well, I'm sure I posted that several times, but yeah, that C is so ubiquitous from 100 years ago. It was kind of played out, and the fact they could have chosen to use any logos, any of their historic uniforms. It's kind of funny. That's an astute. That's a very astute observation from a non-graphic designer.
Well, maybe it's because both teams are in the shitter, so maybe that's why they went with the C.
Well played, sir.
Ha!
Well, on
good night, everybody.
Yeah, on that note.
Word Hole Media.